This month, in the asymmetrical cat and mouse gaming community, we are mourning a loss. The loss of a pillar of our community, a streamer by the name of Puppers. As far as streaming or YouTube content creation, I consider Puppers one of the highest influences I have. Over 5 years ago, he was in a Drunk by Daylight video with a bunch of other cool streamers at the time, and if you watch my Twitch channel for one day, it won't take long for you to figure out where I got a lot of that from. Puppers passed on the 2nd of June this year, which is 2023. After about 32 years of bringing light into this world and 12 years of projecting that light straight into our rooms, he signed off. There's a lot to be said about Puppers, and there's a million other people more qualified to speak about him than I am. But one thing I'll always respect him for is that even in the face of the end, he kept the camera rolling. He never asked us to look away. And he held our hand along the way of his passing, which has to be one of the most commendable acts I've ever seen a human commit. And in that spirit, we're not going to look away. We're going to keep the camera rolling, and we're going to talk about VHS dying. Hi, I'm FDRawr. I stream silly gaming moments over on Twitch as well as making the occasional YouTube video about topics that get stuck in my head. I normally play a genre of game that's called cat and mouse, or hide and seek, or asymmetrical, ASYM for short. I think these games make for a unique gaming experience, maybe not for everybody, but for the people who don't care about a large amount of variety in their gaming experience. For me, they soothe and entertain like nothing else. The top dog in this genre has been a game called Dead by Daylight, which is a horror-themed asymmetrical cat and mouse game. DBD for short. Dead by Daylight is a market anomaly, seeing inexplicable success in both viewership and players. It's had its ups and downs, but thus far, no attempt has been successful at unseating this giant. Video Horror Society, or VHS, was among the strongest, in my opinion, attempts at creating a market diversity for this genre. But about 6 or 7 months ago, it became apparent to me that they might not be doing so hot. I made a video explaining my thoughts on the matter, and you can watch that here. I got some things right, maybe I was wrong on other things. But since Hellbent officially decided to pull the plug on the project, I'm here to revise my thoughts and provide a new analysis on why I think VHS died. As explained in my previous video, VHS had a unique approach to marketing their game. They didn't. The genre itself seems to naturally create grassroots communities seemingly out of thin air, and no one did that better than VHS. Word of mouth carried Hellbent's twisted little child into the ears of disgruntled DBD players everywhere during a time of great dissatisfaction. From February of 2022 to the following May, a few lucky keyholders were treated to a closed beta of VHS. I didn't participate, but sat on the sidelines while friends of mine played. They told stories of amazing matches and of dynamic gameplay that granted agency to both sides of the asymmetrical contest. Those of us without keys were left in a pit of jealousy, and honestly, there's no telling exactly how many excited fans dropped out right then and there. One thing being wrong in public can get you is the perspective of others. When I put out my video on why VHS was dying, I was met with criticism from all sides, but one that stuck out to me was a comment chronicling just how poor of a decision a closed beta was on a game with zero marketing budget. This leaves us to assume the plan was to ride on the backs of content creators, to expect YouTubers and Twitchies to foot the expense to put in their labor free of charge to promote this game to an audience that wouldn't be able to play it for months. In my opinion, this kind of worked, or rather it worked on me, I suppose. My friend Any Season Logic was playing and making content about it, and it kept my appetite for the game alive, but others might not have been so convinced. Relying on charity work is never going to provide consistent results, and you can't expect much return on investment when all of your investment is simply other people's content. Hellbent weren't running ads, they weren't showing up at showcases and wowing everyone with their product. They were sitting there counting their stacks from their founder pack sales. Given that this game charged for multiple characters and for founder packs, and for in-game currency, you'd think the founders would at least be entitled to seeing a release. they were never so lucky. The open beta launched and I personally was amazed by it. I've always been a huge supporter of any competition to Dead by Daylight's formula, and the 80s aesthetic and character customizations really made me feel like this could be a strong contender to open up the market on ASIMs. Like all modern games, release day went big and then the numbers dropped. In this time, Hellbent could have taken their Founders Pack money and invested in some ads, maybe some paid promotional material, maybe they could have even secured a license, some cult horror property to generate some excitement. But no. Again, they relied on the content creators to promote their game for free. As this happens, you see a lot of content creators who had been on board during the closed beta jump ship. I guess there was something they saw in that closed beta that we didn't see in the open early access. From the launch of the early access in July of 2022 to the following November, we see no new content as players struggle to grasp with the new gameplay. The game allowed for the normally passive side of an EA sim to fight back against their big baddie, which, if you know anything about this genre, a major issue it has is creating a rewarding experience for the players on the smaller side of the asymmetry. Unlike Dead by Daylight, this game was based around communication between players, which led to tactical ambushes being pulled on monsters. By November, it seemed that Hellbent was quite aware that their player pool had dipped from around 6,000 active players to under 1,000. And in this genre, we all know which role likes to drop out quicker. VHS had to sell a more rewarding monster experience than you got from the Dead by Daylight or other similar titles, because it was basically all they had. These games tend to attract a lot of the more unhappy Dead by Daylight players looking for a change, and because of that, the developers of these games tend to deal with a loud audience of griefed players, and honestly, I think it's good that they responded. But personally, I don't think their responses helped. They came out with Deathwire, which to this day, no matter how many matches I've had with him, I still haven't had fun, win or lose. His kit was seemingly designed around a high skill ceiling that really doesn't have any viable counters besides extremely general advice like don't get caught in the first place, or if you hear him, run. Those of us still hanging on to hope were trapped in pointless matches with an overpowered, and I'll say it, broken character that honestly didn't even add much to the game. His map was okay at best, and his moveset just made other ASIMs look more appealing. Deathwire was also a major point of contention within the community, as it should be. They put great power in the hands of folks who had felt robbed of it to strengthen the role, but it honestly just made the game more stale. My opinion on this matter is one I've been greatly criticized for, and the most often response is get good, which I find that kind of strange. While making content, I've had over 100 hours in this game, and the player base was at like 70 people a day. How would a game survive if over 100 hours isn't enough experience to enjoy playing it? I was told that Deathwire was the only viable monster anymore, and I kind of believe it, but that doesn't mean it was a good thing. If your game leaves all your imaginative characters to be useless and only allows the literal robot with no counters to compete, your problems are much greater than players just not being able to get good. While you could call the game dead long before Deathwire even showed up, I think that was the last time even the holdouts could look at this game the same way. Not to mention, game wait times were 10 minutes or more due to the low player base. So not only were you pretty much guaranteed to run into the joy-killing robot, but you were also punished with an extended wait time before and after each match. So we've told the story of Video Horror Society all the way up until the point where I released my video about it dying. And honestly, when I made that video, it was more of a plea to the studio to save something that I could see gasping for breath and dying right before my very eyes. A new teen character, Reggie, was supposed to drop with Deathwire, which would have softened the blow of the game becoming even more unplayable. But he was pushed back, likely because he wasn't as sellable as Deathwire. This would become a pattern for Hellbent to the point that even in their devlog, the questions asked by players were indicative of the dissatisfaction and ability to see the game dying right before their eyes. They promised us the game wasn't dying. They promised us Reggie would be worth the wait. They promised us they'd work on a console port. They promised us the world, and ultimately, like so many other names in the industry, the promise is only good until the customer's check clears. I spent way too much time and money on this game, hoping that it would be a viable, I mean maybe not viable, but perhaps at least a competitor to Dead by Daylight in the genre. I was thinking I was supporting at least a passion project, if nothing else. I didn't think the little guy would win, but I didn't think he'd be defeated with such humiliation. I spent hours grinding my faith challenges to earn a silly dress just so I could call myself the prettiest girl at the ball. I spent night after night convincing my friends to wait in endless lobbies with me because I wanted to play this game above all else. I wanted to support this community, this project. The devs didn't see it that way. Hellbent didn't see it that way. And like Blizzard's Overwatch or Game Freak's Pokemon Scarlet, this game is simply another collection of lies from 2022 to 2023 and is really indicative of a dark future in the industry for half-finished cash grabs. VHS is dead, or dying rather, and I encourage you not to look away, to observe, and to learn from it. Thanks for coming to my silly little video, and thank you for watching. VHS meant the world to me, and it's so sad to see it go. But ultimately, this kind of scheme is something that we as consumers need to be aware of. We need to remain alert in the face of scammers. Feel free to let me know everything I got wrong down in the comments, and be sure to come check out my stream on Twitch, so you can see me play games live and tell me I'm terrible, and get a live reaction. Or if YouTube is more your jam, go ahead and subscribe so you can see more videos like this. Take care of each other, and remember that you will never find a light in the fog if you're looking away from hard truths.